Hatred. When you think of that word, what generally comes to mind? Well, chances are, I can tell you, it's probably something negative. When we think about hatred, something that would come to mind would probably be pain, anger, disgust, things like that, which generally aren't something we like to think about. And that is not really a surprise because hatred in our society really has a negative connotation. See, from the time we're little, we're taught that hatred is something that is bad and we should avoid. We should really replace feelings of hatred with love, acceptance, peace, forgiveness. You know, there's some sayings that are saying don't hate, love, things like that. And that is really half of the story. There is some truth to that, but there's also a flip side to it. And one thing that I feel like we don't realize is that hatred is an extremely, extremely powerful motivator. See, just like all other emotions, there's a broad range of emotions that we experience as human beings. We have happiness, sadness, excitement. The range is pretty much broad, and they both have their pros and cons, but I feel like all these emotions that we have as humans together is really what makes us unique. It's really good to have these because we can't really have too much of one emotion over another. And with all these emotions, they do affect us differently, and we do actually have control to a certain degree as to how we choose to let these emotions affect our lives and how we could use these emotions in our lives. So as far as hatred, what do most people generally do when they hate something? I can say from my experience and what I know and what my own experience, we generally complain about things, we avoid it, we just really soak up the feelings of hatred and don't really use it in a productive way, and we kind of self-sabotage ourselves when we have those feelings of hatred and anger. And for the most part, those feelings and how we actually process feelings of hatred don't really benefit us in any way. But think about how hatred could be used as a powerful motivator. So let's use the example of someone who absolutely hates their body weight and they want to lose weight. And they're working out and they're on an eating regimen, but they're not doing it consistently. It's kind of off and on. Now let's say one day they're out running and they don't feel like doing it. You know, they're tired. Basically normal feelings that we experience when we're doing something we don't want to do. Now think about if in that moment they really processed and thought about how much they hated their body fat. Now, if they really channel that hatred the right way, they can use it to really push through that run that they're doing and to complete it and to really activate more energy that they never thought they had in themselves because they absolutely hate the body fat. And that hatred of their body fat in that moment overcomes all other feelings that they have and actually motivates them and pushes them to do the task that'll help them really solve their hatred of the body fat. I know a personal story I can think about was when I had to move back in with my mom, and this is after I've been living on my own for over a period of a year. I live in New York City, and I feel like being in New York City, everything's close. There's more opportunities here and stuff like that. And she lives kind of out of the city, a little bit upstate. So having to move back in with her was one of the most annoying things I actually had to deal with in my life because it was so far out of the way of everything from where I work, from where I had to go, things I had to do. It was one of the longest train rides I had to take just to get back there. I had to take this train all the way up to the last stop, and then after getting off the train I had to walk another 30 plus minutes to get to the actual house because the bus wasn't reliable. I didn't even want to deal with that. I hated the whole commute and everything. And then being on the 7th floor with pretty much nothing to do in that town, it was pretty much hell living there night and day, and then sleeping on the floor and then dealing with all the strict rules that she had. it was terrible, and I absolutely hated it. Miserable going home, miserable waking up in the morning. But I used my hatred of that environment to really push and motivate me to actively look for jobs, to actively send my resumes out there, and also to look for other places. So I would be commuting all throughout New York City, no matter how tired I was, because I absolutely hated my environment and I wanted to get out of there. So I wasn't able to make it out in the goal, the time period that I actually had set. But I feel like if I didn't actually use those feelings of hatred as motivation to really push myself to find ways to get out of that environment, I would have been there much longer than the time I actually spent there. So now think about hatred, something you hate in your life, and how you could use it to really overcome whatever you hate. So let's say you're taking a class in school, you're in college, high school, whatever it is, and you absolutely hate the class that you're taking. Now think about this. If you think about how much you hate it and complain about it, it isn't really going to solve the problem. And probably you're going to end up taking that class again if you fail it. Now try using that hatred as a powerful motivator to study harder and do more to really pass that class so you don't have to do it again. You know, that's what I'm saying. Hatred is a very, very powerful motivator if you use it the right way. It is much harder to work against hatred than it is to let hatred work for you. You just have to learn how to channel hatred the right way and use it as a motivator to help you solve the problem of the thing that you hate. Hope that makes sense. Alright, thank you for watching. One Way Up. Stay tuned. I got more videos coming.